This is Abe Freetanzer from Awards Watch, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with Wagner Moura about his role on Shining Girls. How are you tonight, Wagner?
I'm great. I'm great. Where are you speaking from?
I'm in New York. What about you?
I'm in LA. I'm in LA. That's why it's already it's a still day here. It's daylight.
Well, I live in LA, but right now I'm in New York, so it's nice to have a few extra hours in the day with everybody on the West Coast when I'm here. So.
Yeah.
So tell me about Shining Girls. Were you familiar with the book, and what attracted you to the project?
No, I wasn't familiar with the book. I got this. I read. They sent me the first three scripts, the first three episodes, and I thought it was great writing. I didn't know Silka Luisa, but I thought that what she did was kind of great because she managed to balance very different genres in a very solid story with good characters. So the first thing for me was like, this is good writing, which is not something that it's common. I think I don't, at least I don't get to receive many things that I go like, wow, this is so good. And that was the case. And then, well, what attracted me was also the possibility of working with Elisabeth Moss. I think she's truly one of the greatest American actors working nowadays, and I was always a fan. And it turned out to be even she turned out to be even better than I thought she was in all senses. Also, I was very eager to play a journalist. It's something that I had never done before, and I have many reasons to be. I had many reasons to be excited about that because first, it's my background. I worked as a journalist for some years, graduated as a journalist, and I have so much respect for journalism. We can talk about that if you want.
Please continue. Absolutely.
It's I think, I think it's. Well, when I studied journalism, I had this very romantic idea of like journalists like trying to save the world, and of course, the reality is as in any other profession, the reality is very different from what you expect when you were young. But I think that journalism is a very important part of democracy, of what we call democracy, especially in the Western countries. And nowadays, especially nowadays, I think that this is, I feel bad every time I see the state of journalism and the way journalists are being attacked, especially by world leaders, people like Donald Trump or the president of my country, Jair Bolsonaro, like putting the lives of journalists in danger by discrediting what journalism is about, which is like all the having different listening to everybody, seeking for, as you can call, the truth. But I freak out when I see my kids when they come and to tell me some information that they read on social media, or that they got that. What's the source? Where did you find this? And there's no, it was a video that I saw on the internet. So I think that the way people are getting informed nowadays is very made me think about the old times when journalism, with the criticism that you can have, especially with the big newspapers and their relationship with money and capital and the announcements and all that. But I think that it's the more think about the importance of journalism to the maintenance of democracies in the world. So yeah, I was very excited about that too.
It's interesting, as you were talking about, searching for the truth, I'm thinking about this show and how the truth is something that isn't easy to pin down because reality is so unstable. What was it like filming that when things could change at any moment?
crazy. I was exactly. It was, and I think it's beautiful when you see Dan like really trying to be a good journalist in that circumstances, like asking her the questions, vetting her answers, and trying to be. I think it's actually beautiful, but it's it's a very unusual circumstance. It's she. I think that I love. There is one thing that I really like about the show and about Dan's arc is that he starts the show by Bam, I'm sorry, I can't help you now. It's my kid.
I'm sorry.
I'm doing something here, man. I can't help you now right now. It's he I'm babysitting my 3 kids right now. My wife went to Brazil, and I'm alone with 3 boys at home.
That's a whole different interview. A whole lot to talk about.
Yeah, and he comes here like very like, I'm sorry, but I really need to just do. But sorry. So the thing that for me about Dan is like in journalism, and the thing that you asked is like his relationship with Kirby starts as a very professional journalistic thing, because they're very similar characters. I think that they recognize in each other sort of the same wounds, and that I think it's beautiful the way they come together and the way they approach each other and the way they slowly open up to each other. But in the beginning, the relationship with Kirby is for Dan it's about the story. It's a means for him to regain the position that he once had as a journalist. And then therefore he's very objective but then I like when he starts to realize that there is something about that woman, and then it sort of becomes more personal, and then the rules of journalism starts to fall apart in a way, because there's something about her that he just connects with, and then everything changes.
Oh, it's very interesting. I also know that, I mean, obviously, I, like many people, saw you in Narcos before this, which is a really incredible show we can talk about in a minute. But that was the show where all the episodes were released at once, which I personally took weeks to watch the show. I never watched anything right away. But Apple TV Plus is a different release strategy, which in this case, I believe, was 3 episodes and then, 1 each week. How do you feel about that? As how should people who haven't seen the show yet start watching it?
We got used to the Netflix thing. I remember when you had to wait a week to watch something that a series or something that you liked, and then suddenly everything became like easier. Like you can see, like, I think we got a little spoiled by Netflix, but I also think that the world is so fast. That every time that there's an opportunity to slow down and contain your anxiety, and I think it's always a good thing.
And the role of Pablo Escobar, of course, is something that could define your career and change every be responsible for every role after that in terms of what you might get cast in. Do you appreciate the fact that was your big international breakthrough?
Oh yeah. Narcos was a very important thing. It's a show that I'm very proud of, and it was very important to me, like personally. It's for different reasons. Of course, it was, like you said, the show that I everywhere I go, people have seen Narcos. Like it's like in the Middle East, everywhere, and that's also something about the streaming services and how this changed the way audiovisual is consumed in the world. It's like, but I could feel that in a very personal way, but also Narcos was important to me for many personal reasons. The fact that I'm Brazilian, a country that's completely isolated in South America, culturally because we don't speak Spanish, and and then I was in Colombia talking about the drug trade, which is something that resonates a lot with my reality in Brazil, and finally finding connections, cultural connections with I was working with actors from Colombia, Argentina, Venezuela, Chile, Mexico, finding cultural connection with these people that I never thought I had. But Brazil was like, we are Brazilians, and this is like, and then I was like, that's when I felt that I was a Latin American guy, like. I had my kids living in Colombia, learning Spanish, and that was very important to me. And also to realize that the so-called war on drugs, which was something that I kind of felt that was like a flop. But by doing Narcos, I was like, this is absurd. This is just a way of that was invented to a way of social control in poor countries, where young people in poor neighborhoods are getting killed just by nothing to apprehend drugs. This is the idea of that drugs should definitely be legalized, which was something that I was already thinking when I was before doing Narcos. After doing it, I was like, this should absolutely be the way to deal with that.
Well, I think you do a great job of tapping into the elements of Pablo Escobar's humanity. But I think speaking with you, it seems like you're a lot closer to another character, real life person you played, and that was in the film Sergio, which I think I saw at my last in-person film festival at Sundance in 2020. What was it like making that film?
Yeah, it was great, man. I had wrapped Narcos, and then I was off. I went to Brazil and I directed a film there. I spent like 2 years working on this film, shooting and then editing, and then we released the film in Berlin. But in between that, I managed to produce and shoot this little film about this Brazilian UN guy, Sergio Vieira de Mello, who is. When we were talking about world leaders now, and then he would be in this moment right now of the count, especially. I remember when we released the film during the pandemic, where like all the people saying all kind of crazy stuff, anti-vaccinations, the world leaders saying like Bolsonaro hasn't got his shot yet, misleading people with false. Again, this is connected to what we spoke before about journalism and information. Like, people saying that I remember that the President Donald Trump also, they went to addressing their population, saying that this is just a flu, this is not gonna, and then in Brazil 600,000 people died of COVID, and that could definitely be avoided, like at least half of it. So I when I think about Sergio, I think that this is the kind of world leader that we miss nowadays. He was a very important Brazilian, and I was and for me it was also I have this thing of especially after playing Narcos, which also was great and important. I think that it's important for Latinos to start like really trying to play characters that don't reinforce the stereotype of of violence and because we represent like a big chunk of American society, and we are everything. We are diplomats, we are doctors, we are journalists, we are and it's nice to be able to be. So I thought that Sergio I'm glad you saw that movie in Sundance. It was a very nice moment for us to release the film there.
I also had heard about Sergio because I had a professor when I was studying journalism in college who had worked for him up until his assassination. And that's what actually brought him back to New York. He was explaining his autobiography. He said, my boss was assassinated and I came back, and he was lots of very good things to say about him. So I'm not sure what he thinks of the movie, but I know at least he'd appreciate the fact that, he's being talked about.
Yeah, listen, a movie is always it's always a take on something, right? It's like it's a 2-hour film that trying to understand the complexity of the life of a man, and not an ordinary man, a man like him. So yeah, it's I understand any criticism on films about so-called real characters. Like the film that I directed in Brazil is about the guy who was the leader of the resistance in Brazil against the dictatorship that we had back in the 60s and the 70s. So yeah, I understand that. But I also think it's important to talk about, to bring the names of people that you think that did make some sort of difference in the world.
Yeah. And I know you have some pretty cool projects coming up. I don't want to ask any questions in case you can't talk about them. So you tell me what you're allowed to say and we'll go from there.
I just wrapped this amazing film that I'm very excited about. It was probably the most difficult thing that I have ever done in my life. It's an Alex Garland's film called Civil War. We just finished it. I spent like 4 months in Atlanta, Georgia, with this beautiful cast: Kirsten Dunst, Stephen McKillen Henderson, who I'm absolutely in love with. He's the most adorable human being I have ever met in my life. This young actress, Kaylee Spaney, who is great actress. Kirsten, amazing. So I came home like very tired, but very happy and excited about. Alex is one of the most brilliant people I have ever met in my life. So I'm very, very excited about this film.
Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time to speak with me and to, discuss the merits of journalism and all that. It's been great to talk to you and to be able to meet with you.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. It was great talking to you too. I'm sorry. I have kids and I have dogs and I have things, and I'm home alone and taking care of my.
It's okay. It's important for everyone to know you're a real person too. You're not Pablo Escobar. You're not just one, role. So thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Take care. See you soon.